a college student wrestling with a giant Burmese python.
Once a snake has caught and killed a human, can it actually consume it?
I think it's safe to say that most of us do not like snakes. That all being said, snakes are part of our ecosystem, and every now and again we see them whether we like it or not. Now, while most of us see snakes from a distance or through the television, there are some people who have been unfortunate enough to have some really close-up and personal experiences with these animals. And in this video, we'll be showing you some of the most deadly encounters ever recorded. Join us as we have a look at 20 deadliest snake encounters caught on camera. A quick stop. If you're ever going to visit a water body, you really need to be careful not to incur the wrath of a sea snake. They may prefer to stay in water and not come onto the land, but these guys definitely have their own temper. Our next video shows the moment when a guy on a fishing trip got an unwelcome visitor literally in his boat. The guy, who apparently runs a YouTube channel, had decided to take some time out and go fishing in what appeared to be a swamp. I mean, why go to a river or a lake when you can literally risk your life by entering an unknown swamp to fish? Anyways, while he was fishing and having a good time, he reached out to his side and caught what appeared to be a snake lurking and gearing up to pounce on him.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here. Oh, shoot!
It's a bit difficult to see what type of snake that it was, but I'm actually surprised that it didn't turn and snip him just a little. Either the snake was looking to get something else, or just was not in the mood to eat anything that day. Whatever it may have been, I think the guy should definitely count himself lucky. More than it can chew. Anacondas are easily amongst the biggest and most menacing snakes of the world. They're known for their size and immense strength, particularly their ability to strangle their prey, since they don't have any venom to bring them down. Nevertheless, for an anaconda to effectively get its prey, a lot of things need to be right. In the first clip, we see a menacing video where an anaconda gets behind a baby cow and tries to bring it down using nothing but brute force.
Hoje, 22 de janeiro, aqui na Fazenda Araponga. A presepada que aconteceu aqui hoje. O sucuri pegou o bezerro e não deu conta de engolir.
As you can see, the anaconda is at a bit of a disadvantage in this one. The calf is standing up straight, and the snake is pretty much only able to clamp its teeth on its leg. But as it tried to bite down the calf's leg, it found that it was just unable to get the leverage it needed to weigh it down. To make things worse, the calf, rightfully scared, began to move around hysterically. I can't even imagine how terrifying the moment must have been for it. Fortunately, there was a group of farmers on the scene who eventually helped the calf to break free of the anaconda's bite, but that help should have come much earlier. Outmaneuvering the wrangler. The Burmese python is known to be one of the largest and deadliest snakes in the world. Like many pythons, these guys don't have any venom, but to be honest, they don't really need it either. The bite of the Burmese python is especially strong and capable of causing severe lacerations. Besides that, the snakes are known for their ability to wrangle and strangle their prey as soon as they catch it. Over the past few years, there have been a bit of a resurgence for these snakes. They're generally native to Southeast Asia, but they've become especially prominent in the United States, particularly in the Florida Everglades. In this next clip, we see a moment when a man in Florida apparently had a crazy encounter with a Burmese python that he'd found close to a sidewalk.
Losing it, Jake.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Let's go!
Dude!
You got tape on you? I know you carry tape.
Honestly, you've got to give it to the guy. Not only did he display an insane amount of skill to catch the python's head, but he was also able to hold his own and stop the python from squeezing the air out of his lungs. And with the help of people around him, he had managed to walk away unscathed. Deep sea encounter. If you think that humans are the only species that don't like snakes, well, you'll be surprised. Even sea snakes definitely have a lot of haters, and at the end of the day, no one wants to get bitten. For this next clip, we see an insane encounter between a sea snake and a moray eel. According to the person who posted the video, the clip would be shot at a beach in Indonesia. It featured a sea snake itself chomping into a hole around a coral reef and literally pulling out an eel. The moment that it did that, the fight was on. And what an awesome battle that it was. Although the snake fought valiantly, it appeared that it was unable to overpower the moray eel, and after the tense battle, the guy decided that it just wasn't worth it and that he'd go look for food elsewhere. And as for the eel, I'm pretty sure it would have a pretty sick story to tell its buddies back in the reef. A boar for your troubles. Pythons are very fearsome and menacing, and they literally scare the pants off of most other animals. I mean, you've got fully grown human beings seeing these snakes and making a run for it. So imagine how scared that most other animals would be of them. Still though, it appears that some animals might not necessarily care so much for running hysterically when they meet a snake, for some apparent reason. In this next clip, we'll be taking you back to October of 2012 when a python came across 3 young boars in the forests of Florida. Apparently, those boars had broken off from a group of others and were foraging for food in the forests, unaware that this python had been stalking them for the longest time. What was even more insane was the fact that the python literally came face to face with these succulent pieces of meat, and they just didn't give a damn. Can you imagine how insulted the python must have felt? Either the boars didn't know or they didn't care, and they still presented with such a sweet opportunity. You would best believe the python struck first and struck hard. You don't care about the huge predator that's coming at you? Well, that's what you're gonna get. Perfect camouflage. One of the reasons why snakes are so deadly is that they tend to find the perfect places to hide. In fact, you've got snakes that are so great at camouflaging that they literally hide in plain sight. For this next clip, we see a perfect example of that. A YouTube content creator who focuses on wildlife was taking a tour of a natural reserve in Maryland when he ran into a completely unexpected interloper on the road.
I'm gonna leave the camera on now the whole time. Just use up my batteries. That way I don't miss any footage.
Even by merely looking at the ground, you barely see anything there, but it was there all right. If you look close enough, you'll see the little rascal curled up on the sidewalk.
Not good at all, not good at all, not good at all. Shit. Okay. I just got...
Apparently, that was a copperhead snake. Copperheads are known for their dirt brown color, which sets them apart from most other snakes, and because the snake's color blended so perfectly with the sidewalk, it would have been almost impossible for the guy to notice it, especially since he was so busy filming his tour of the park. Fortunately for the guy, the copperhead snake is not known to possess especially potent venom, so he had had enough time to get a park ranger who came on the scene and administered an antivenom while removing the snake in a professional way. Going number 2. Personally, one of the biggest fears that I have is sitting on the toilet and having a snake crawl up there to bite my tush. I just don't know if it's the movies or if I've seen some kind of crazy book that I've read, but this is a major fear that I actually have. Anyways, while this is just a fear for me, it's kind of a reality for some others. Earlier this year, a woman in Tucson, Arizona went viral after she posted a video of a snake in her toilet that was being taken out.
Although a snake in a toilet is alarming, Hughes told KPHO it's rare to see.
According to her, she had been on vacation for a while, and when she returned to her home, she discovered the black viper chilling in her toilet. Can you simply imagine how scary that must have been? Fortunately, she found the snake before she sat down, and she was able to call a local exterminator service to help and get it out. Easter egg hunt. When Easter comes around, it's always one of the most exciting days of the year, everyone goes around collecting eggs and designing Easter bunnies. Quick wrap. Personally, I think the people who choose to work at snake shelters are some of the most brave people in the world. These guys undergo immense training to ensure that they're properly ready for their work, but even then, the snakes that they encounter will often be pretty finicky. In this next clip, we see a handler at a snake shelter trying to bring out an albino python for an exhibition, but while he seemed pretty confident in his skills and was demonstrating how to approach the serpent, it appeared to have been triggered.
She's going to feel that it's a hook and not food.
Fortunately for the guy, the python was not venomous. He was pretty lucky as well, because with the position the snake bit him, things could have been much more lethal if there was any venom involved. To make things even worse, it appeared that the snake had already gotten agitated by the entire encounter, and as the guy tried putting it back in its enclosure, it made a quick heel turn.
Don't worry guys, I'm a trained professional.
The crazy thing was how the guy just kept saying, "I'm a professional," while he was getting owned by the snake. Trust me, professional or not, these guys are not to be messed with. Camera shy. For this next video, we see a guy who had apparently been exploring a water body somewhere and ended up spotting a snake that was close to him. Despite not having much in terms of tools, he was able to fetch a grabbing stick from his boat, which he had used to hold the snake with some impressive skill. With the snake firmly in his hands, the guy decided to take it and showcase it using his camera on the boat. And for some reason, the snake was not all that pleased with this idea, and it showed its agitation immediately by lunging towards the camera. Yeah, something tells me that the snake was not all too happy about being on television. The stuff of nightmares. If you think a snake crawling up your toilet is bad, how about having one literally come to you while you sleep? This next video would be shot in Thailand, showing the moment that a snake somehow found its way into an old lady's room while she slept. The clip is apparently taken in 2019, showing a lady sleeping comfortably as a snake crawls also ever closely to her bed. Fortunately for her, she was able to get up just in time to catch the home invader. After the brief battle, she was able to keep the snake at bay and call for experts to help her get it out of the house. This must have been a really traumatizing experience for her. I mean, personally, I don't really care. I would be out of that house that night and never have come back, but perhaps that's just me. Selfie time. If you're holding a snake, I think it's safe to say that you want to be present all throughout. I mean, the very last thing that you want is to lose focus and end up with a snake all around your neck. But this park ranger apparently didn't seem to get that memo. He had been called by the local community to help address a massive python sighting, and to his credit, he actually did his job quite well. At the point when he handled the python, the guy was pretty much a hero to everyone in the community, and this is kind of when things begin to go downhill. You see, someone close to the ranger wanted to take a selfie with him, and instead of focusing on the python, he actually obliged. In that split moment, the ranger had lost his hold on the python and pretty much almost sealed his own fate. The snake immediately formed a coil around his body and began to tighten. Fortunately for the ranger, one of his assistants was able to break the snake's hold on him. What a lucky guy, though, considering that could have easily gone south. Tussling with the giant. A few years ago, this hilarious yet deadly clip would hit the internet, showing a moment when a bunch of snake experts were called in to help get rid of a Burmese python that had invaded the local farmland. The experts, who suspiciously got on the scene without much in terms of tools and equipment, eventually got to the location and found that the python had apparently climbed a tree and was all curled up on its branch. And so, one of them decided to climb up there and get it off, and that did not go as planned.
Put down. Shut up there, Todd.
The guy immediately knew that he was at a disadvantage, and he did his best to get away from the python. It was a pretty scary situation, but the guys managed to catch the python and get it off of the farmland. Here's a quick tip: don't try this again. Looking for Wi-Fi. Have you ever had a snake come into an enclosed space while you were there? It's scary, isn't it? You have absolutely no idea how crazy it can get, though. This next clip was captured by CCTV cameras in a cyber cafe in Thailand back in 2017. A guy was on his way out of the place, but he had no idea there was a snake just close to the door. The moment he finally found out what was taking place, he immediately lost his mind, and so did everyone else. Reports confirmed that the snake in particular was a rat snake, a non-venomous serpent that poses little to no threat to humans, but still, you can understand why these cyber cafe guys were scared out of their minds. Use your head. When you spend most of your life around snakes, I reckon that you'll get more comfortable with them and not really see them as what they are: insanely dangerous animals that can cause some real damage. This next guy appeared to fancy himself as a badass. He took a python by the head and proceeded to taunt it, probably to show off to his fans and friends on social media or something. Now at first, it was a series of blowing and spitting in the python's face, and then the guy gets really cocky and decides to place the python literally on his own face. And let's just say things did not go quite that well for him. Yikes! Now he has to look for how to get the python's teeth out of his head. Sure, the snake is not venomous and all, but even still, there is a lesson to be learned here. Just stop being horrible to animals. Watch the hand. Experts who handle snakes and extract their venom to make antivenom are the real heroes. Without them, who knows how many people would have perished from a snake bite. Now, to be a venom extractor, you need to be incredibly careful. You'll have to work in close proximity to snakes, and even the slightest mistake could prove to be lethal. Back in 2010, George Van Horn, a renowned herpetologist, had learned this firsthand while trying to extract the venom from a rattlesnake. As the clip will show, all it took was for George to get too close to the serpent and then get bitten. Fortunately for him, there was an anti-venom facility close to his location, and he was able to get the treatment that he desperately needed. Hands off my baby. Even in the animal kingdom, there's a common principle. Mothers would do anything to defend their babies. Back in 2021, popular animal handler Jay Brewer got a perfect exhibition of this when he tried to take a python's egg while it was still there. While Jay was an expert and was trying different maneuvers, it was pretty obvious that the mama python was not messing around, and as soon as he got too close for comfort, she then pounced on him.
Come on, girl. She's like, hey, I finally laid some eggs and you're gonna take them from me? Yes, because we want them to hatch, because they won't hatch otherwise. Come on, girl. Come on. So the good part is with this smaller clutch, I can levitate. Oh man. Oh, I got it right in the face. I knew this was gonna be the video. Blood and all.
Jay was only spared due to his quick reflexes, and trust me, that could have been a really sticky situation. Hitching a ride. If you have a job to do and you find yourself suddenly visited at the workplace by an unwanted guest, chances are you'd feel pretty bummed out about it, so you can only imagine how these guys felt. In this next video, we see the chilling moment when a delivery driver was about to enter his car, only to find that a slithering snake had already beat him to it.
Recommend send me that picture, man. The AC vent recording. Yeah.
According to reports, the snake had apparently crawled into the vehicle through its vents and pretty much just sat on the dashboard. I don't know about you, but that snake kind of has an ownership mentality. I mean, the nerve of the guy to just sit on the dashboard and wait for someone to drive it around town. Fortunately, the snake was removed from the car without any issues, but boy, could you imagine how it would have been if it had come out of the vents while the driver was there. Yikes! Honestly, I don't think there are any of these scenarios that I wouldn't have freaked out completely if I were in these people's shoes. But then again, snakes are not my thing. What do you think, though? Would you be able to hold your own with these creepy crawly creatures? Let us know in the comments down below. Be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any videos in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
They can slither anywhere and strike faster than the blink of an eye. Every year, snakes bite nearly 5.5 million people worldwide. and some of those bites are caught on camera. Today we've collected the most terrifying, surprising, and tragic snake attacks ever recorded on video. How to Survive presents 6 snake attacks you'll wish you never saw. Number 6. The Fearless Shaman. Nek Tadang was an Indonesian shaman, famous in his small village for handling deadly animals without any fear. Sadly, his last act was caught on video in 2020. He had captured a king cobra and prepared a show for his neighbors. As usual, he started handling and spinning the cobra, smiling at the audience, but things soon got out of hand. After the snake's first spin, he had to catch it when it tried to bite his face. Unfortunately, the snake managed to twist and bite his wrist. Some of his enthusiastic audience screamed in fear. Tadang pretended to scold the cobra as villagers came to help him clean the wound, but he insisted on continuing. Seconds later, the increasingly furious snake struck him directly in the face. He finished his performance, but 2 hours later he began to feel very ill. At the hospital, doctors administered an anti-venom, but unfortunately, it was too late. The venom flooded his bloodstream, and Nek Tadang was pronounced dead. Even people accustomed to handling wild animals can get killed by them. So never attempt to do it without proper training and equipment. Number 5. A cat wins its share. In central India, it's not uncommon for snakes to sneak into homes, but Rajesh Barv and his wife finally had enough here. They were lucky to have a cat that has always spotted scaly intruders in time. On this occasion, the cat started hissing at the shoe rack. As some of the shoes were moved, this happened. A deadly cobra was ready to kill, stressed by all the commotion. Rajesh called in a snake handler. The frightened reptile attacked again and again, getting more and more agitated. The handler managed to get hold of the unwanted visitor for a short period of time, but had to release it until a jar could be found to keep it in. As the man started the rescue all over again, the cobra unfolded its hood and tried to strike. Experience and ingenuity allowed the expert to finish the job and bring his latest success story to a shelter. If you live in an area where snakes are common, don't forget to close windows and doors to prevent any unwanted slithering guests. Number 4. The Caught Charmer. This 35-year-old man is a professional performer with many years of experience handling venomous snakes. On this particular day, he was performing with a king cobra. The venom it releases in a single bite can kill 20 humans, even an adult elephant. Unfortunately for the handler, it was not his day. After a few turns, the snake lunged towards his arm and bit him. Only a few minutes after the bite, he fell unconscious and stopped breathing. He was rushed to the hospital and spent 3 days on life support. He was lucky to be alive, but more than a week after his close encounter, he still had burn-like wounds all over his body. The only thing that saved this man was immediate medical attention, so never approach a deadly cobra in the wild without anti-venom in your pocket. Number 3. The Slithering Nightmare. This terrifying video will give you plenty of material for your own future nightmares. It's 2019, and this 75-year-old grandmother is sleeping in her Bangkok home when an intruder sneaks into her room. At first, the lethal python remains still, perhaps just looking for a cool place to spend the night. But soon the woman begins moving in her sleep. Her foot wiggling is just inches from the deadly trespasser. The snake remains alert, perhaps feeling threatened by the movement. The lady's foot moves again, and the beast lunges forward. It takes a second for the woman to react after the fangs dig into her skin. At first, she thinks it's just a bad dream. She wakes up and finds something worse than a nightmare. A python coiled in front of her bed, ready to strike again. Fortunately, she managed to get out of the room and call for help. Experts think that the snake entered the woman's room through the bathroom pipes. Yet another reason to be careful when reaching for toilet paper in the bathroom. Number 2. When stunts go wrong. Artivo Duarte is a famous Brazilian activist known as the Ninja of Serpents. He regularly performs dangerous stunts with deadly animals to raise awareness about deforestation in the Amazon. But, you know, every once in a while, a stunt can go wrong. This time, he wanted to put the head of a huge python in his mouth while he already had a tarantula resting on his tongue. The tarantula behaved as expected, but when he tried to add the snake into the mix, disaster struck. The reptile bit him straight on the face. After a few terrifying and painful seconds, the python let go. Pythons have no venom, so Artivo's life was not threatened. Still, please, never try this at home. Number 1. A curious tourist. Watching charmers at a snake park in Thailand from a distance is one thing, but trying to imitate them, well, this Chinese tourist was invited to kiss a snake as part of the show. As she approached, the snake turned its head and bit her directly on the nose. The rest of the tourists screamed in terror. The handlers were as shocked as the poor woman. She struggled in pain as the snake gripped her face. Finally, the staff managed to free the 29-year-old woman. She was taken to the hospital where she received 8 stitches to her nose. The company that organized the show paid her about $3,000 in damages and stated that tourists would no longer be allowed to get up close and personal with the snakes. Slender, stealthy beasts sneaking into your home are scary, but huge monsters like this one breaking in and eating you whole are like a scene from a horror movie. That's why we've compiled the scariest true stories of people who survived being attacked by Komodo dragons. Want to see them? Keep watching here on How to Survive.
Snakes are amongst the most deadliest and dangerous animals on the planet, and with so many snake species being available, the threats they pose can really be infinite. For most of us, the only encounters we ever have with snakes include zoos. We go in, see a few snakes on display, and admire them. But if you ever get to meet snakes in the wild or within their natural habitat, trust me, you'll find that they could be much meaner in person.
Ow! Kurt, take me to the hospital!
In this video, we'll be looking at some of the most terrifying encounters involving snakes ever caught on camera. And here's a helpful hint. If you're watching this alone at night, I recommend that you turn the lights on. Join us as we have a look at the 20 deadliest snake encounters ever. Number 20. Snake peeking out of hiding. You know that feeling when you're so comfortable that you forget there's even a threat somewhere? Well, just imagine how this guy must have felt. In 2017, a man named Gerald Haywood would be visiting his friend in Lawton, Oklahoma, when he was suddenly greeted by an unexpected guest. As the footage would show, Gerald was just pulling up to his friend's house when he opened the door and found a snake popping out of nowhere. The bull snake, which was about 5 feet long, lunged at Gerald, striking him in the eye.
Ow! Kurt, take me to the...
Gerald immediately went into the house and asked his friend Rodney to take him to the hospital, and luckily for him, the bull snake had only missed his eye by a small margin.
Right around the eyelid.
The fact that the snake itself wasn't actually venomous meant that Gerald didn't need much in terms of medical care, but still though, you have to admire the speed with which he asked to be taken to the hospital, and thank goodness he was safe in the end. Number 19. Sewer fishing gone wrong. In June of 2019, a couple of friends and content creators were out on a sewer fishing trip in Miami when they appeared to catch something way different from what they had expected. The friends began by identifying the sewer they wanted to fish in and were all set to begin hunting for their game.
Oh, we're gonna go ahead and throw some food in here. Check it out. Get over here. Get over here. So I'm just gonna jump.
At least the guys didn't end up doing something foolhardy like opening the sewer to see the snake. Instead, they called their friend Jacob, who seemed to be a professional snake catcher.
Might have eggs.
Jacob is here. Jacob, you won't believe it. Look what's inside this sewer.
8 to 10 foot.
Zach, don't even tell him yet. Don't even tell him.
8 to 10 foot.
Jacob eventually sat down to go take a look at the snake, and even I can feel my heart thumping as he goes further down the sewer.
Watch out, bro. This thing is huge.
His head, you just move right there because I'm in here. And
Oh my gosh.
There's
I
only
can't
one
see
way
him at
out.
all.
I don't want to watch.
Can you see him?
No!
I can't see him at all.
I can see his head in there. Oh my gosh.
Slowly and steadily, he pulls the snake out and then reveals it, a massive 15-foot long serpent.
I got the. We have plenty of space back here in our trucks. Okay, you go over there. Kelly.
Let him run out.
While the guys were filming, Jacob eventually brought the snake out, revealing its massive body. Number 18. Granny gets a snake visit. Now, I really hope that you're not scared of snakes because this one is quite the doozy. The next video was taken in Thailand, showing a moment when a snake attacked an elderly woman while she was sleeping. Also taken in 2019, the video clearly shows the grandmother sleeping calmly in her bed while a slithering reptile suddenly comes in looking for a bite. Fortunately, she was able to sense that something was moving around her, and she woke up just in time to spot the dastardly intruder. After having spotted the snake, she was able to get to safety and call someone to help get it out of her house. Yes, I think that this serves as a lesson to everyone. When you go to sleep, just make sure that your doors are locked. Twice even. Number 17. Venomous snake attacks little girl. When it comes to snakes, I don't think that any country can really talk about experiences in the way that Australia can. There are all manner of snakes within that country, and in this case, one of them got a little too close to a little girl. The video, which would be taken in 2020, shows the moment that an eastern brown snake decided to scare a little girl and her family in Queensland. As it shows, the girl, as well as her mother and sister, had come out to do some laundry when all of a sudden, while the mother was trying to lock the door, out jumped the snake. Amidst all the hullabaloo, the mother was finally able to get the girls to safety, although it was definitely not a smooth operation. Interestingly, it was only after the entire fiasco had seemingly been solved that the girl's father finally came out. He even went the wrong way. Talk about coming in at the very last moment. Number 16. Man tests a snake and finds out. Like every other animal, snakes hate it when you test them or generally annoy them. However, the next guy appeared to have missed that in his snake handler training because he went on to taunt the snake, and boy did he regret it. The video shows a guy having way too much fun and being well too comfortable with a snake and a python no less. He kept on playing with the python and even put it close to his face. I'm guessing that he was just trying to make some content and show what an awesome guy that he was, but the snake was not having any of it. As soon as it got close enough, it then bit him right in the head. That'll show you to mess around with a python. Fortunately, the snake was not venomous, so it would not transmit any necessarily dangerous materials, but still, it must have hurt. Number 15. Snake interrupts a drinking session. You know that feeling when you're with your guys and chilling over a round of drinks and food, only to be interrupted by an unlikely visitor? Well, what would you do if that visitor turned out to be a dangerous snake? Years back, CCTV footage would capture the incredible moment when a group of drinking buddies suddenly found their session cut short after a striped snake then decided to get in on some of the fun as well. Fortunately for the men, one of them decided to get up and stretch his legs, only to turn and see the sneaky predator almost at his feet. It was an incredible stroke of luck for the guys, as they were able to evade the snake quickly, plus even the reptile itself appeared to have been startled. and in time, they were able to chase it away. Number 14. Robert Irwin gets bitten in the face. If you're like most people, you probably first got a little taste of the animal kingdom while watching Steve Irwin as a child. The famous Australian zookeeper and conservationist spent the bulk of his life teaching about wild animals and helping to preserve them. And until his death in 2006, his work on wildlife education had inspired an entire generation. Robert, Steve's first child, decided to follow in his father's footsteps and also become a zookeeper. And if there's one thing that you definitely need to be ready for, it's animals getting a little nasty sometimes. In this clip from 2021, Robert is seen playing with a particularly long python when it suddenly snaps and took a snip out of his face.
There's a good snake. When I first found this guy, there is no way I could...
Robert would explain in the video that the python must have had no choice other than to bite him as a defense tactic since it didn't have any venom. Check out the extent of the damage that was done by the bite.
Alright, so I'll get this cleaned up a little bit. I got a little bit too close.
Despite having no fangs or venom, I'm pretty sure that bite must have stung equally as bad. Number 13. Giant python gets too close to animal keeper. If there's one job that I absolutely do not envy, it's the guys that snake shelters that are responsible for keeping the snakes happy and satiated. I understand that snakes can be managed, but they're snakes. You could be joking with one, and it could suddenly snap and attack you, just like this guy. In the next clip, which was taken sometime in August of 2019, an agent at a snake shelter goes to have a little fun time with a python when suddenly it goes straight for his chest. Now sure, the snake didn't have any venom, so the bite was not necessarily dangerous, but I sure would not want to be in this situation myself. Things got even more worse when the guy went back to pick the python up, only for it to begin wrapping around him gradually, as if it were preparing him for a meal. While the guy was able to get the snake back into position, I think the message here was pretty clear. The snake just wanted to be left alone. Number 12. Python bites Chinese tourist mid-kiss. First off, I don't think there's any reason in the world whatsoever for me to ever try to kiss a python. No matter how seemingly friendly they may be, it's important to remember that they are still snakes, and there's just no trusting them. Don't take it from me though, check out this next person. While on a zoo tour in Phuket, Thailand back in 2016, a 29-year-old tourist suddenly developed an urge to kiss a reticulated python. Why in the world that they would do that, I honestly don't know, but it appeared that the python was not ready for any smooches on that day, especially from a stranger that it didn't recognize. It's either that, or perhaps the snake was also just eager for some action and wanted to get a smooch back, just not in the way that the person had hoped for. The snake's handlers were able to get it off of their face in time, although they did suffer some pretty nasty injuries as a result. Reports would confirm that there were about $3,700 in compensation dished out, so hopefully it covered some of the costs of the medical bills. Number 11. Boa constrictor won't let go of Dutch woman's hand. You know how you go on these daredevil shows and they make you do some weird stuff in the name of facing your fears? Well, I think I might have to count myself out of those, because in this next video, I'm going to take you all the way to the Netherlands, where a program called Real Girls in the Jungle tried to force women to essentially take some risks, all in the name of content. According to reports, this specific contestant was tasked with opening a box that contained a dangerous animal. As soon as she did, she was stunned to find that it was a live boa constrictor. You would think that the lady would be more than happy to sit that one out, but no, she went on with the animal, and boy did she pay for that mistake. The boa constrictor did all it could to hold on to the lady's arm, and even with about 3 handlers there, it must have been a Herculean task. Maybe that would teach her not to mess with a sleeping python in the future. Number 10. The venom extraction fail. There are only a few snakes that are so deadly and fierce as the rattlesnake. They literally shake their rattles in a bid to warn any potential prey, but even with the heads up, a rattlesnake that's committed enough will always get you. Even experts who are experienced in snake handling can be snipped once in a while by a rattlesnake if it gets a strong enough whiff. Just take this video as reference. In 2010, a herpetologist known as George Van Horn would be bitten by an eastern rattlesnake, all while trying to take some of its venom at the Reptile World Serpentarium in St. Cloud, Florida. George was a well-experienced snake handler, but he appeared to have gotten a little bit too close for comfort as this little guy got a snip of his hand while the venom extraction was taking place. Fortunately, though, the Serpentarium had enough antivenom facilities, and George was treated quickly, but maybe the snake just needed a little bit of a snack while giving its venom away. Number 9. Anaconda attacks capybara in the wild. When you're in the wild, pretty much anything goes, and when it comes to the anaconda, having freedom of movement in the wild is just a given. In this clip, taken in December of 2009, an anaconda measuring about 6 meters in length is seen strutting around its domain when it spots the perfect prey, that being a capybara. Known as the world's largest rodent, the capybara can grow up to 4 feet long and measure up to 100 pounds in weight, so you can imagine the glee on this anaconda's face when it came upon this family of capybaras. It's well known that anacondas don't have any venom, so they cannot poison their prey, but instead they'll latch onto them and literally squeeze them to death. Considering the size difference between the two animals, it's safe to say that the little capybara had no hope as soon as it got caught. Now there's a hearty meal if there ever was one. Number 8. Snake breaks into an internet cafe. There's hardly anything like being absolutely surprised by a snake when you least expect it. For this guy, I'm pretty sure it was an experience of a lifetime. The clip, which would be taken in 2017 and shot in Thailand, shows CCTV footage of an internet cafe being run during a regular busy day. One of the customers appears to be on his way out of the cafe after a session, but he appeared not to notice that there was actually a snake close to the door. The moment that he finally got wind of his slithering companion, he then flew into a hysterical fit. According to reports, the particular serpent was a rat snake, so it was not venomous, but try telling that to a scared cafe customer. Maybe the little guy just wanted to come in and use the facilities. Whatever it was, he sure caused enough trouble for one day. Number 7. Mother python attacks a zookeeper. Mothers will do just about anything to protect their children. While snakes are usually predators that go after other animals' children, you should actually see how fierce they can be when it comes to protecting their own. This clip, which was taken in 2021, shows noted animal handler Jay Brewer getting into quite a sticky situation after he had attempted to take a python's eggs. Even while Jay had tried to maneuver his way around the python, you could see that she was not having any of it. This lady knew that her eggs were in danger, and she immediately jumped into fight mode. As soon as Jay appeared to hold the clutch of eggs and let his guard down for one moment, the mother python absolutely pounced.
So the good part is with this small clutch, I can levitate. Oh man. Oh, I got it right in the face.
Fortunately, Jay's reflexes were quick to act, and he avoided what could have very well been quite the unfortunate situation. Number 6. Giant python found underground. Snakes are the master of disguise. They're well adept at hiding in almost plain sight, whether it's to rest or stalk potential prey. And in our next video, we see a group of snake hunters in Vietnam who have discovered a massive python that appears to have hidden itself underground. According to reports, the hunters had been surveying the land to see if there were any reptilian inhabitants, and when they came upon the snake's location, they then began digging. So, what did they find under all of that rubble? Well, probably the largest snake that you've ever seen. It looked more like the snake had just finished a huge meal and was looking to hibernate for a while. The poor guy just wanted a nap. Number 5. Rabbit fends off snake from her babies. Rabbits might be cute and all, but you sure don't want to get them mad. Regardless of what animal you are, you'll absolutely get what's coming for you. In our next clip, which was taken back in 2015, a black rat snake could be seen already wrapping itself around a baby rabbit. With its prey firmly within its grasp, the snake decided to take its time. But what it didn't account for was the fact that the rabbit's mother was close by. And as soon as the mother bunny saw her baby was in danger, the fight was on. Once she was able to ascertain that her baby was okay, she turned her attention to the slithering serpent and made it pay the price. Despite the snake's best efforts to flee the scene, the rabbit would not let go. That'll teach him to never mess with the wrong mother again. Number 4. Pet snake attacks woman. Personally, I'm not really sure why anyone would want to have a snake as a pet. No matter how seemingly domesticated they might be, you have to remember that they're still snakes, and anything could literally happen. Just take this woman for example. In a truly gnarly video that was shot in 2020, the lady is seen trying to tend to her pet snake when it suddenly comes out of its cubicle and absolutely rushes her.
Oh,
hey.
okay, well.
Need a hand?
No, I'm gonna have Chris help, hopefully.
The video is a perfect representation of just how dangerous and swift that a python attack can be. Despite even getting help from someone else, the woman had a truly hard time getting the snake off of her body.
No.
Kind of figured.
No. Okay, no, I need you.
Even worse, the lady then began to lose a lot of blood as the snake just wouldn't let go.
Keep going. Oh! All right. So.
Whee! Look at that blood.
Let's get.
Want me to stop filming and help you?
Yeah, please.
It looks like the grumpy snake must have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed. Number 3. Brave dog fights off king cobra. If you see a king cobra suddenly slithering in your garden, one of the first things that you do would probably be to pack up and get the heck out of there. However, for this dog, cowardice was not on the menu. Despite meeting a 12-foot-long king cobra, the dog held his own, although it would be a tense encounter to say the least. Fortunately for this canine crusader, one of his buddies came over to help him out. Now, if you know anything about snakes, you'll know that a numbers advantage might not necessarily amount to much, especially when it comes to a cobra, but these brave little doggos were able to eventually fend off the intruding serpent. I'm sure there's a lesson about teamwork somewhere in this video. Number 2. Diamondback rattlesnake in a pond. A few years ago, a YouTuber couple by the name of Cole and Jay that posts adventure content decided to go on a little fishing trip. They vlogged the entire experience, catching different fishes on their journey, but unknown to them, they had apparently gone a bit into snake-infested waters, and while Cole was still looking for some game, she suddenly saw something slithering under the river's surface. That's when she reached for it and was surprised to find a diamondback rattlesnake.
He's a giant! Oh my gosh!
While Cole and Jay were admiring their unlikely find, it appeared that the rattlesnake was not so pleased to have been pulled out of its habitat and made sure to communicate that.
That is a giant.
This is, woo!
A giant diamondback.
Cole continued to show off the snake despite the initial bite, and our guy just kept on nibbling at her hand. After getting bitten a couple more times, the two eventually released the snake and tended to the wounds. The snake was fortunately non-venomous, so she only needed to get a few stitches on that arm. Number 1. The snake charmer fail. Snake charmers are professional performers who wow audiences with their skills of pacifying and seemingly controlling snakes. For the better part of the best, it's almost like they have a telepathic connection of these snakes or something, but even the most highly trained charmers can still be put at risk. In this clip, we see a 35-year-old snake charmer performing with a king cobra. While everything seems to be going just fine, they would soon turn south after the cobra had decided to get a bite of his arm.
Unfortunately for the handler, it was not his day. After a few turns, the snake lunged towards his arm and bit him.
According to reports, the snake charmer went unconscious only a few moments after the bite and was immediately rushed to a nearby hospital where they were able to administer an antivenom and save his life, although he did have to spend 3 days on life support. If I were him, my snake charming days would likely be automatically over. I can't go around risking my life for someone else's entertainment, now can I? I think it's safe to say that we should all be more wary of snakes. No one ever wants to become attacked, but being safe is definitely better than being sorry. What do you think? Have you witnessed any up-close encounters with these slithering rascals? Let us know all about it in the comments section down below, and I'll see you next time.
Pythons are constrictors who strangle their prey to death before swallowing it whole. Have you ever seen a python attack a monkey? Do you think a python can swallow an entire antelope in one sitting? If you want to see some pythons strut their stuff, keep watching as we look at the most savage moments of pythons hunting and eating animals alive. Number 8. This massive snake is devouring a live young cow. As you can see in the video, it all starts with the head. I understand that snakes can stretch their mouths wide, but a cow is enormous. It will take months for this snake to digest such a massive animal, but you'll know it's done when you see the tip of the cow's legs enter the snake's body. You can see how this snake coils around this cow and opens its mouth so wide so it can swallow the cow whole. It's an incredible scene to watch, and for snakes to be able to do this is fascinating. Number 7. This pig was on its way to visit some family, and it decided to take this road. But little did it know a monstrous snake was waiting for it, and when it approached, the snake ambushed the piggy and coiled itself around it. You can see how the snake squeezes the animal to death while it's swallowing it whole. I must say, it doesn't look like fun, even for the snake. Could you imagine having to open your mouth so wide every time you ate? A fully grown python will not hesitate to attack huge prey such as wild pigs, which, like pythons in Florida, are considered invasive animals. However, pythons are opportunistic feeders who will eat any deceased creatures they come across, even this pig. Pythons normally pursue their victim for a long period before killing it in a matter of minutes. Regardless, massive prey feeding can take several hours. Due to the troublesome nature of feral pigs, numerous states in the United States have declared them an invasive species. Feral hog hunting rules are frequently considerably reduced, if not non-existent, in these states. In Missouri, there is no need for a hunting license to take wild boar. Hunters can kill as many as they want with any weapon. Feral pigs can get violent and use their tusks to defend themselves. Number 6. This video shows an alligator and a python fighting in the water. When the alligator grabs the snake in its mouth and begins crushing it incessantly, it appears to have the upper hand. This time, the alligator is on the winning side. These two have engaged and are settling their differences, but the fight doesn't last long when the belligerents untangle and head in different directions. Now, this crocodile knows how to take care of a problem. He just crushes, mangles, and eats a python as if it was a toy. Number 5. A helpless mother could only stand by and watch as an African rock python devoured her baby whole. A herd of impala cries alerted her to the presence of a predator, and she came across the rear sight of the python enjoying its meal. The acid in the python's stomach will dissolve everything on the impala, including its hooves and horns. It may take weeks for the snake to digest such a large meal, during which time it will be more vulnerable to predators. However, after such a meal, this snake may not need to feed for up to a year. These people were lucky enough to film this python swallowing a newly born impala in Moremi, Botswana. They were a little surprised it was not a particularly big python. although it does look big when stretched over the unlucky animal. These snakes can certainly stretch their jaws when it's time to eat. Number 4. The jaws of an African rock python seem small, but their power speaks volumes. Growing more than 20 feet long, it's one of the largest snakes in the world. Like many predators, the python hunts in the darkness. It has sensors in its snout that can detect when prey is close by. In a two-pronged attack, the python grips victims with its jaws and then utilizes bondage as a second weapon. With each extension, the python tightens its grasp on the springbok. Each breath becomes shallower as the python tightens its grip, until death by strangling occurs. The jaws are putting on a show right now. Pythons consume their prey whole, beginning with the head, rather than chewing or dismembering it. This python has one of the largest stomachs ever seen, and it can go a year without eating after this. Once its prey has been trapped, a snake can take its time eating. An antelope is being devoured by this huge python. A python kills its prey by wrapping its coils around it and squeezing it until it can't breathe any longer. Yet it takes time to consume its meal. The antelope will be eaten head first, since it is much easier that way. You can see the antelope's head slowly entering the snake's body. Number 3. This massive python is caught on camera in India swallowing a massive goat, and it isn't deterred by the onlookers. The villagers stand by and watch as the snake devours the goat. The snake, which was estimated to be 10 feet long, swallowed the goat for 4 hours before slowly retreating to nearby bushes. According to locals, this is the first incident of its kind to occur near their village. Deforestation has had an impact on the way many animals hunt, and this is a prime example. This snake drags a goat out of the woods and begins to devour it. The goat has already died, most likely because of the snake's attack. Consider how long this snake is. It starts swallowing the goat whole. You can see the snake wrapped around the goat, and it almost looks like they're cuddled up and ready to watch an episode of Tarzan. Some villagers take a big stick and start to hit the snake with it, which forces the reptile to let go of the goat, which escapes the second it's freed. The snake heads into the bushes when it's almost smacked on the head by one of the villagers with a stick. Number 2. This tiger python squeezes and kills this cute bunny rabbit. But it's not an easy kill because the rabbit doesn't die so easily. This cute little rabbit is this Burmese python's lunch, but the rabbit has no idea just yet. It approaches the snake and examines it, but when it gets too close for comfort, the snake lunges out and strikes, grabbing the rabbit and suffocating it. This python swoops down to snatch this fluffy bunny rabbit and holds it up in midair whilst it's suffocating it. The rabbit's eyes are half closed, almost as if it's enjoying this and it's relaxing, but that's not the case. This is the first time I've seen a snake hold an animal like this to kill it. Wow, this is insane! Number 1. This monkey is staring at the camera and it's as if it's telling the camera, it's all over. You can feel the pain of the monkey's face and his sadness is obvious. Who wouldn't be sad being killed this way? This snake is massive and it's just a matter of time before this monkey is swallowed. This video is our thumbnail video, and you can see all the other monkeys trying to help their friend, but they don't want to end up in the same predicament as him, so they're very careful when they try to help him out by not getting too close. They don't seem convincing, so I'm thinking this monkey isn't getting out of this ordeal. These adult monkeys stay on the lookout for danger. One of their deadliest threats is also one of the stealthiest. Its huge camouflage body disappears under a leaf litter. The snake senses warm-blooded prey. Indian pythons can grow up to 16 feet and can easily swallow a monkey whole. The python knows food is close and bides its time until the moment is right. The snake coils its muscular body around its victim until it suffocates and swallows its prey whole. Some of these were difficult to watch, but the clip that blew me out of the water was the python that snatched the rabbit and held him in midair while he was killing it. How crazy was that? Which one was your favourite? Why don't you let us know in the comments below? Well, that's our look at the most savage moments of pythons hunting and eating animals alive. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and let us know in the comments what you think. check out our other videos and subscribe to be part of the fun. Click on the notification icon so you can see our new videos as soon as they're uploaded. That's it for now.
Unfortunately, animals have a habit of putting themselves in dangerous situations. Because they are constantly in search of food, they often end up at the wrong place at the wrong time. If you want to see what happens when animals dabble in electricity, sit tight as you get shocked when we look at animals being shocked to death. Number 15. Snake gets electric shock. Some tourists arrived in South Africa, and on their first day, they encountered a cobra that got zapped when he made contact with an electric fence. A man pushed the snake away with a stick to prevent him from further electrocution. I don't know why this huge snake decided to crawl up this electric pole, but when this employee tries to bring it down with the rod, the snake resists and holds on tight to pole. I'm not sure if the snake gets a few shocks along the way, but the people managed to take him down alive and put him in a bag. This snake is dangling from an electric pole, and he's attracting a lot of attention because birds begin to show up. I guess they're waiting for lunch. When the snake is zapped, it falls to the ground, but when the cameraman looks for it, there is no movement on the ground. I guess the birds already knew the outcome, and that's why they showed up. This white oak snake tried to get into this hen house, but the electric fence not only stopped him, but also killed him. I guess snakes are not the ideal animals for electric fences. Number 14. Birds being shocked. Parrots are being electrocuted according to the sibling of the person filming. So he grabs his camera and records the whole incident, and you can see the other two dangling by their beaks and one on its tail. They were producing an electric shock by jumping from wire to wire. They would not have been electrocuted if they had just stayed on one line. These birds meet at the top of an electric pole, but one of the birds is unlucky and gets zapped. The bird falls to the ground, and the person filming approaches the bird. The bird is stunned, but still alive, and after a few seconds, even manages to fly away. I hope it learned its lesson. You can see how close this little bird is to being zapped, and when he is, he just disappears. I guess there's only one thing to say. Beam me up, Scotty. Number 13. Cows/bulls get electric shock. This young bull finds out soon enough not to go out wandering too close to the electric fence when he gets a small shock and backs away. I guess after a few of those, the animals understand not to touch the fence. These cows are enclosed, surrounded by an electric fence, and every time one cow touches the fence, the entire herd backs off. It's kind of funny to watch. You don't always have to climb an electric pole to get the shock, and you can see what I mean when this cow steps into a puddle of water right next to an electric pole and crumbles to the ground and dies. Because the ions in water are extremely conductive, electricity and water are a dangerous combination. This results in an electrical shock, possibly of a more severe nature. Any body of water can become an electrical shock hazard if an electrical source is submerged. This bull finds out soon enough not to go out wandering too close to the electric fence when it gets a small shock and backs away. I guess after a few of those, the animal understands not to touch the fence. For the first time, the 4 tiny calves were allowed to leave their calf enclosure shelter. They were initially allowed a little area to stretch their legs, locate their new feed in water bins, and become familiar with the electric fencing. They'll be released into the entire field once they've settled down and are no longer milking. Number 12. Chickens versus electric fence. The owners of this farm were letting their chickens become familiar with their new electric fence, but the chickens still ran into the fence several times. Now that they've grown, they still push up against it. They never learn. This chicken decided to get a better view of the surroundings by climbing up an electric pole. Everything was fine and dandy until the chicken exploded and disappeared. Number 11. Squirrels getting zapped. This squirrel gets a small shock when he takes a walk on this fence. The squirrel can be seen reacting to the shock and running off afterwards. This squirrel tries to get a quick lunch from this bird feeder, but he is zapped and the shock sends him flying to the ground. He comes back for more, but it's the same result. I guess he'll need a few shocks to set him straight. This squirrel loves to eat pasta, but pasta without tomato sauce is bland. That's why this little rodent is trying to sneak past this fence to steal a few tomatoes. Unfortunately for the little guy, he gets zapped when he tries to jump over and runs off in terror. Apparently, the owner of this place had evicted a bunch of squirrels, but 5 months later, they showed up again, so he set up an electric rig to fend them off. Unfortunately, one of the squirrels got caught in a bad way, ending up with both wires under his armpits, which killed him. The owner admits having pinpointed the problem and made the necessary adjustments so this would not happen again. Number 10. Alligator/crocodile versus electric eel. In our thumbnail, it looks like this eel is about to be devoured by a hungry reptile. But maybe the alligator is in for a surprise he doesn't expect. One of South Africa's apex predators uses what could be the strangest hunting tactic of all. This 6-foot animal produces a killing shock of electricity. It flushes out its prey and delivers its death blow of 500 volts, enough to stun an adult human. Watch this crocodile approach this electric eel and get the shock of its life. It is stunned and realizes it is in trouble and immediately tries to get away. The eel only defended itself, so once the crocodile got the message, the eel did not pursue it. When this caiman tries to snatch an electric eel, he feels the vibe, and it's not pleasant. It almost looks like the caiman is at a spa enjoying a bubble bath. Number 9. Fox gets shocked. This fox wants to get past this fence, probably in search of food or prey, but the fence zaps him and he moves away. He realizes he won't be able to get through, so he leaves. This curious fox looks through the fence, but when he sticks his nose in it, he finds out the fence is alive and bites. He must be asking himself what a strange animal that was. Number 8. Deer versus electric fence. The owner of this land purchased a new electric fence to prevent deer from getting into his brassica plots, and he's quite satisfied because the animals are staying away from it. During a cold winter day, the last thing this deer needs is a shock to the system. But when it gets too close to this fence, that's what it gets. These deer were used to seeing the hedge on this property, and when the owner installed a new electric fence to prevent them from doing so, they still tried to get to it. But boy were they surprised when they found out touching the fence hurt so bad. This video is not about electric shocks. It's about being shocked when an elk takes a spectacular fall, sliding uncontrollably down a waterfall, ending up right at the feet of the person filming. Now that's what I call a shocking experience. Number 7. Lion gets shocked during hunts. While on a safari in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which borders the Kruger National Park in South Africa, Ernest Porter, a safari guide, and his guests tracked 2 lionesses to a waterbuck, which they discovered lying in the grass just a few meters away with the 2 lionesses. But the lioness appeared hesitant to attack due to an electric fence beside the antelope. They thought they chased it into the fence, ran full speed into the waterbuck, and then stopped stunned. Even though the lionesses were only a few meters away from the waterbuck, they refused to attack. Electric fences are necessary in game reserves to prevent animals from damaging equipment and stealing, but they occasionally interfere with the animal's natural behavior. They waited for something to happen, and eventually, one lion jumped on the waterbuck, touched the fence, was shocked, and jumped off of the waterbuck, perplexed. She then went back to the waterbuck to continue her hunts. The video shows the perplexed lions being zapped by the fence and looking around, unsure of what is going on. Despite the limited protection provided by the fence, the lionesses killed the waterbuck after being shocked several times during the attack. This lioness has been electrocuted by this fence, and he's just laying on the ground. The fence is supposed to be a deterrent, so the shock is not that strong, but this lion looks dead. I hope it's not the case. Number 6. Elephants getting shocked. This poor elephant calf falls on an electric fence and is in a constant state of shock while its mom tries to get it out of there, but it's not easy. A woman eventually arrives and tries to get the little guy out of the predicament. She's managed to help the calf up. All the elephants gather around the calf to make sure he's okay. These massive elephants use their trunks to grab food, but sometimes they make contact with the electric fence and get shocked. Considering their size, I'm sure it's more of a tickle than a shock. It doesn't look like an electric fence works to keep elephants enclosed. Shock or no shock, these elephants walk right through this electric fence and enjoy some freedom. This electric fence is more potent, and it shows when one of these 2 elephants makes contact with it and falls to the ground. However, the shock seems to have broken the fence and the 2 elephants escape. Number 5. Dog versus electric eel. Watch this dog grab this electric eel and immediately drop it after receiving the shock of his life. That must have come as a surprise. This little dog is attempting to snatch this electric eel, but every time he gets close, it shakes its head, most likely due to the shock it receives. It eventually learns its lesson and simply barks at the eel. The eel can return to the water without difficulty. When this dog makes the mistake of walking into the water right next to an electric pole, he is zapped to death. This dog has a habit of destroying this man's garden, so the man put up an electric fence and it seems to do the job. Number 4. Monkeys get electric shock. The monkey on this electric pole has already been electrocuted and is dead. Someone pushes the body with a rod, sending the body falling to the ground. This monkey is fiddling around on this electric structure, and if he's not careful, he could end up feeling some unpleasant tingles. Here is a monkey swinging on an electric line trying to reach the electric pole, and when he does, he swings on to the next cable and the next. But as soon as he touches the third cable, you can see the flames burn his body. The monkey falls to the ground and probably dies, even though we don't see the outcome. Number 3. Raccoons. This raccoon gets the scare of his life when he tries to steal food from a bird feeder. The shock was enough to make the little pest look elsewhere for food. A man found another way to deter the raccoons from getting into his trash can. An electric fence that seems to work well. The raccoons are smarts. Once they get hit with it, they don't come back for quite a while. Another sneaky raccoon tries trespassing on private property, but instead takes a jump back into the forest. This man kept losing fish to a raccoon that was snatching them out of the water. Hence, he got an electric fence installed, and instead of shocking the fish, the raccoon was shocked by the fence. A bobcat kept coming to this property to snatch some ducks and chickens, so the owner of this property installed an electric fence. However, the next night, the bobcat was nowhere to be seen. Instead, a poor raccoon tried his luck, but was not as lucky as the bobcat and got the shock of his life. Number 2. Cat zap. This kitten approached a pond, but didn't know it was protected by an electric fence, so when it touched it, it was zapped. The owner of the cat found it cute and funny, and that's understandable because he wasn't the one getting shocked. This man put up an electric fence to keep a heron out, but after his cat discovered the fence, they decided to turn it off when they were in the backyard because the cat kept getting shocks. This cat stands right below an electric fence, and the second he makes contact with the fence, he scrams out of there. This cat sneaks onto this property by walking under an electric fence without a problem, but when his tail touches the fence, the cat is startled and runs off. Number 1. Honey badger/badger. Badgers are fearless and aggressive animals that never back down from a fight, except when the aggressor is an electric fence. This badger kept tearing up this man's lawn, so he decided to install an electric fence, and you can see what happens to the honey badger on his next visit. He runs like the wind after being zapped by the fence. After a man installs an electric fence, a badger does not even try touching the netting. This badger electric fence kit is perfect for keeping badgers off your gardens and flower beds. They are easy to set up and move around and come with dark green netting so they don't stick out like a sore thumb. This badger doesn't realize an electric fence separates him from his goal, but when he touches the fence, he finds out soon enough and scrams back into the forest. Watch as this badger is deterred with the 4-line, positive-negative electric fence system. 4 lines of electric fence wires strung across a baited open box will do the trick. Some of these were hard to watch, but my favorite was without a doubt the bird that disappeared when it was zapped. Which one was your favorite? Why don't you let us know in the comments below? Well, that's our look at animals being shocked to death. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and let us know in the comments what you think. Check out our other videos and subscribe to be part of the fun. Click on the notification icon so you can see our new videos as soon as they're uploaded. That's it for now. You're either deadly scared of them, or you love them. Snakes are one of those creatures that seem like they have the simplest bodies and structures, but turn out to be quite complex. Living without any limbs or prominent body parts must be hard, but not for these serpents. Being a snake must be unusual. Sometimes people poke around with you for no reason. Other times, people annoy you for climbing a coconut tree. However, you should stick around to find out the biggest snake ever caught. Here are the 10 biggest snakes ever caught on camera. Number 10. Snake picked up by crane. Creepy crawlers can scare anyone. However, you can't always ignore them. Sometimes, construction workers need to do their job. This snake was crawling around the place where a few workers were cleaning up in the Dominican rainforest. When they came across this absolutely massive serpent, they were shocked to see something like this could actually exist. After a few moments of shock, they had to get it out of there with the only way they could think of, by lifting the beast with a crane. You might think this is some sort of CGI work, but it's all real. In fact, this clip went viral and scared millions of people everywhere. Number 9. Fluffy the Snakezilla. If you're someone who's into reptiles, then you definitely know about Fluffy. She might not look as friendly as her name, but she's definitely popular. Since she was the most prized possession of the Columbia Zoo, there was a whole documentary made on her and how big she could get. Like in most reticular pythons, she grew up to be 22.8 feet. She was starring in a documentary, but because of her old age, she passed away before it could be finished. Luckily, she lived a very happy life of 18 years. Fluffy the Snakezilla was definitely a specimen to be remembered and embraced. Before we move on, we've got a speed challenge for you. If you subscribe to Facts Junkie and hit the bell icon in the next 5 seconds, you'll win 10 years of incredible luck. Give it a shot. It actually works. Number 8. Titanoboa seen in a lake. Going swimming in Brazil is no joke. Sure, you get a really good view and even get a good amount of sunshine, but you might also have to deal with a huge snake. This gigantic snake was seen in a lake, and the local people immediately started calling it a Titanoboa. Even though the Titanoboa has been extinct for years and years, people were convinced that it had resurfaced when they looked at the sheer size of this monstrosity, which was estimated to be about 26 feet. Luckily, the locals couldn't harm the wildlife as this snake was found on an environmental commitment register farm. If any scientists want to confirm this is a Titanoboa, you know where to go. Number 7. Anaconda fights man. When you see a predator, the most sensible thing to do is leave it alone or walk away quietly before it catches you. However, these fishermen wanted to add to the chaos of encountering a snake when they saw action laws. Many species of snakes are found in Brazil, and considering the fishermen were local, they should have known better. This snake could have easily turned on them and bit one of them. Number 6. Giant anaconda in Amazon River. Anacondas are definitely the most known snakes when it comes to size. Some of these can grow up to 30 feet and up to 500 pounds. They are a huge fan of tropic places and are even usually found in the tropical waters. Since they're quite well adapted to life in the water, it's easy for them to hunt underwater too. You can usually see them on the surface since their nose and eyes are located on the top of their head, and so they try to stay afloat so that they're alerted at all times. What's scary is that they're actually faster in the water than they are on land. They can swim and reach a speed of up to 10 miles per hour, while on land it's just 5. Number 5. Reticulated python at Naples Zoo. South Africa has enough wild animals to scare even the biggest daredevils. Sometimes, these animals just need a spot to rest and end up sitting in a place that belongs to humans. While a family was out looking at the wonders of nature in the Kruger Park, this 12-foot rock python made its way inside their car. The snake was probably just looking for a cool and comfortable spot to rest in. The family couldn't really do much at the time. In fact, they had no idea that there was a huge serpent sitting in their engine trying to take a nap. Once they opened up the engine and realized what was going on, they tapped the snake once. Soon after that, it got out of the car by itself. Don't worry, no one was hurt and the snake was quick to leave too. Number 4. Huge anaconda on the road. Finding snakes in the wild grass or even in trees isn't that uncommon. But seeing out on the open road is definitely startling. This terrifying anaconda appeared near the city of Porto Velho in Brazil and caused an awful traffic jam. Every single car on the road had to stop because either they were curious about the snake or too scared to pass by. The anaconda was about 13 feet long and over 65 pounds. Snakes don't particularly like to cross roads, but sometimes they have to as roads divide forest, wetlands, and many other natural habitats. It's good that the nearby people didn't freak out much, and calmly let the snakes move across and climb over the fence. Another reason why snakes might be found on roads is that roads provide them with warmth. Since thermoregulation is extremely important to snakes, they love to hide in warm spots. Number 3. Giant coconut-eating snake. The general public aren't snake experts. That's why many people couldn't figure out which snake was this. Some claimed that it was an anaconda. Some said that it was a reticulated python. However, this is a giant brown tree snake. There's land snakes, sea snakes, and even tree snakes now. Most snakes can't climb trees, but this one is quite special. These tree snakes might not have any limbs that can help them climb upwards, but they do have incredible muscular power, which lets them climb in a very weird way. This one wraps itself around the tree, then climbs upwards while the bottom releases its grip gradually all at once. It's a difficult task to do, but anything for some good coconut. These serpents can twist their bodies into a lasso shape and make their way to the top. Pretty weird, right? Number 2. Ivory reticulated python. Generally, we see snakes exclusively in dark colors, since that's what helps them hide better. But here is one that's so vibrantly white that you can't take your eyes off of it. This is a rare ivory reticulated python, which is one of the biggest in the world. They are large predators, so they're always aggressive. But this one was just trying to protect its eggs while the caretaker kept poking around. Even though the caretaker was experienced, he was still hesitant since these creatures are incredibly strong. In fact, this species is among the few ones that can actually swallow a whole human in one go. Their jaws can open wide enough for them to gobble up a human and successfully fly digest it. The fact that they generally grow up to be about over 16 feet doesn't help either. This one here is easily about 20 feet. One wrong move and the caretaker would get a bite right in the face. Number 1. Medusa. Finally, we have the world's biggest snake, Medusa. This snake is actually in the Guinness World Records book under the reptile of the largest snake in captivity. It's 25 feet and 2 inches, which is quite impressive. The 8-year-old snake weighs up to 350 pounds. To keep up with her luxurious lifestyle, she eats a combination of rabbits, hogs, and deer every 2 weeks. The reticulated python is owned by Full Moon Productions in Kansas City. They usually keep the giant snake all coiled up in a corner as a haunted house called the Edge of Hell. Usually, pythons can be quite wild and unpredictable, but Medusa is fed regularly, which keeps her in check and avoids any mishaps. Sometimes, she even purrs like a cat, and she's happy and hisses when Chess is annoyed with anyone. She definitely now shows to get the message across. Alright, comment below which of these snakes spooked you out the most. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Facts Junkie, and hit the bell icon for more. See you at the next one.
Snake in the truck. It was late in the afternoon on Friday when Eduardo Jacinto, a 38-year-old rancher, called an employee of his to ask if he could take care of some cattle on the family property. This is just off a rural highway in Brazil. Unfortunately for the employee, he had a deadly encounter with a serpent while on his way. The employee spotted the snake on the side of the road and slowed down to get a good look at it. He was pretty sure this was the same giant snake he had seen in recent years around the area. But the serpent had gotten bigger since the last time he saw it. This time the snake was an estimated 21 feet, 6.4 meters in length. It was a literal monster. As the employee was driving, he had his wife following behind him. They had both slowed to check out the huge snake, and his wife had pulled out her camera. As she was taking pictures of the enormous serpent, she noticed it looked ready to strike. She also noticed that her husband had his arm leaning out of the window. She yelled at him to bring his arm inside, and it was just then that the serpent lunged at the truck. If not for her warning, the huge snake, which looked to be an anaconda, may very well have sunk its fangs into the guy's arm. It might even have dragged him out of the truck. They took off after that. And so far as we know, the mysterious giant snake has not been seen again. 9. Drunk revenge. A man in India named Rama Mato was recently killed after a failed revenge attack on a baby snake. Yes, this bizarre incident is exactly as strange as it sounds. Rama was relaxing outside his home in the small village of Madhode when the baby snake slithered up and sunk its fangs into his leg. It was too late to do anything about the bite, but not too late for a bit of revenge. Rama grabbed the snake by its neck, brought it up to his face, and tried to bite the snake in half. But this proved to be the worst possible reaction because Rama died just hours later. According to Rama's family members who witnessed the ridiculous scene play out, he was bitten over 10 times on the face while trying to chew apart the baby reptile. He may have survived if not for his illogical idea to bite the snake in half, starting at its middle. While he tried to chew through its tough skin, the snake just kept biting him in the face. And to make matters worse, he refused the family's advice to go to the hospital. He was drunk at the time and said the snake had no venom because it was just a baby. Intoxicated and frustrated, Rama passed out. The next morning, his family found him dead in his bed, undoubtedly from the untreated snake bites. 8. Dog Savior. In Alabama, a dog named Ruger became a local hero after saving his owner from a deadly copperhead snake. The owner of the dog is Zachary Pate, a resident of Tuscaloosa. He was on an ordinary afternoon walk around his favorite lake with Ruger when suddenly the dog began nipping at his leg. Zachary was confused because his 18-month Con Corso had never tried to play with him like that. The dog became wildly aggressive, biting his leg and scratching its claws. Zachary was so weirded out that he actually turned around and scolded the dog, getting mad for the bizarre behavior. Then Ruger started running around in wild circles. That was when Zachary realized the dog had something in its mouth. It looked like a stick, but it was a little too limp. Upon closer inspection, he realized that Ruger had snatched a copperhead snake in its jaws. He then watched the dog thrash the snake against a log, whipping the serpent with all its might. The whole ordeal was over in just seconds, and Ruger left the snake limp in the dirt. Zachary, to make sure the snake was really dead, picked up a stick and bludgeoned the serpent with it. But perhaps the most amazing part, other than the heroics of the dog, is that nobody got hurt. Ruger didn't get bit, and neither did Zachary, which is good news, seeing as how toxic the venom of the copperhead is. If Zachary had been bit, he would have needed to make it all the way back to his truck and then drive to the nearest hospital. But by then, it may have been too late. 7. Hiding under the bed. A young girl in Australia was hospitalized just a few Mondays ago after a snake snuck up on her while sleeping and tried to kill her. The girl was just 10 years old, sound asleep in her bed, when a sudden pain woke her up. Something had bitten her feet, several times actually. She screamed. Her family ran into the room, and when they saw the mulga snake slithering around the floor, they hurriedly got the child out of the room and rushed her to the hospital. The mulga snake, also sometimes known as the king brown snake, is extremely venomous. According to local snake catcher Rex Neindorf, who was called in to deal with the horrifying reptile, mulga snakes are known for being ridiculously aggressive. They also have a savage bite and won't hesitate to lash out when under stress. Toxic venom is injected via the fangs, so potent it's almost always lethal. And to make the snake even scarier, it's been known to grow up to 9 feet, 2.7 meters long. Luckily, the girl's family knew what they were doing. They got her to the closest hospital and admitted her to the ICU. She was given an anti-venom by the doctors and has since made a full recovery. She'll be okay, though probably a little traumatized. As for the slippery serpent, it was disposed of by the snake catcher. What would you do if you found a venomous snake hiding in your bed in the middle of the night? Let us know in the comments, and remember to subscribe before the end of the video. 6. Attack in the dark. A man from New Jersey was recently recovering in the hospital after an unexpected snake bite while hiking on a trail after dark. According to Kevin Murray, he was on a short hike just after sunset when he felt a sharp, stinging sensation on his ankle. A few feet away from him, he noticed something that would have caused a normal person's heart to explode. There was a huge brown snake making a sneaky getaway, what turned out to be a copperhead. But for Kevin, he didn't think anything of it. After all, this is New Jersey. Kevin just thought it was a garden snake and wouldn't be an issue, but just in case, he snapped a picture of it. The picture ended up being hugely important. Doctors were able to use the photo to identify the snake when Kevin was rushed to the ICU following a sudden onset of snake bite symptoms. He was in tremendous pain, and doctors were worried that the venom was quickly spreading to his heart. Luckily, that wasn't the case. He didn't even require anti-venom, though he did stay in the hospital for 3 days under observation. Kevin's doctors said it was his ability to stay calm that helped save his life. They said most people freak out after being bit, which causes the venom to run through their body much quicker as the heart speeds up. Kevin's relaxation after realizing he was bitten by a deadly serpent is what ultimately kept the venom from leaking into his heart. 5. Bitten on the toilet. In Australia, a man was bitten by his neighbor's python. While this in itself isn't much of a story, the fact that the python bit the guy while he was sitting on the toilet makes it something a little unusual. The bizarre event happened early in the morning when the guy sat down to do his business. What he didn't know is that the snake had previously escaped from his neighbor's apartment, slithered through the drainage system, and came out in his toilet. The victim, 65 years old, felt a sudden pinch in his private area. When he looked between his legs, he saw a massive albino python staring back at him. Naturally, he hopped off the toilet and ran away, then called a reptile expert to come deal with the monster. The reptile expert got the snake out of the toilet, gave it a quick clean, and then handed it back to its owner. And yeah, the owner is a bit of an odd duck. According to the police, they discovered him to be keeping 11 constrictor snakes in his apartment, with some living in terrariums and some living in drawers. They've since launched an investigation and hope to bring up charges of causing bodily harm because of negligence. As for the old fella's private area, he had himself checked at the hospital and has since recovered. 4. Pet mamba. Ask your friends, they'll probably all tell you it's a bad idea to have a venomous snake for a pet. A man in North Carolina clearly didn't ask his friends for advice before he purchased himself a pet green mamba, one of the deadliest snakes in the entire world. It's not quite as bad as the black mamba from Africa, but the chances of surviving a bite without immediate anti-venom are extremely low. The North Carolinian, whose name has been kept out of the news, had to take himself directly to the hospital after a bit of an altercation with his exotic pet. The snake bit him on the hand, injecting neurotoxin venom. He needed the antidote immediately, but when he arrived at the hospital, they told him that the nearest available anti-venom for such a creature was over 250 miles, 402 kilometers away at a zoo in Colombia. The only reason the Riverbanks Zoo had the anti-venom is because they have 3 green mambas on display in their collection. Staff at the zoo had to quickly pack a cooler with 10 vials of the anti-venom, then drive it to the Lexington Medical Center, where it was flown to the UNC Rex Hospital where the victim was slowly dying. But they did get the anti-venom to him eventually. And just in time, too, because he almost kicked the bucket. He recovered over the weekend and was sent home. And amazingly, he still has the deadly snake living in his house. 3. Hero cat. In Australia, a heroic cat has sacrificed itself to save 2 young children. This amazing act of courage happened while the domestic cat, whose name was Arthur, was playing with his owners in their backyard, where they live on Australia's Sunshine Coast. The humans didn't notice the big, mean, and very venomous eastern brown snake slither into the garden, but the cat did. The feline got into a standoff with a serpent, giving the parents enough time to get their children to safety. But before the cat could also make its retreat, the snake lashed out with its fangs. It then slithered back out of the garden the way it came, as if it had come on purpose just to bite the cat and then leave. The cat was in a phenomenal amount of pain, and the family quickly took him to the nearest veterinarian. But unfortunately, the vets at the animal emergency room couldn't do anything to save him. Arthur's symptoms were too severe, with the deadly venom coursing through his veins. The family had no choice but to quickly put the cat to sleep, saving him from any more pain. They left the veterinarian's office with heavy hearts, but will always remember the brave cat for saving the lives of their 2 young children. 2. Steaks on the grill. Speaking of children and snakes, 2 kids were recently a whole lot less lucky than the ones in the last story. In Arizona, a family was on vacation at Riggs Lake when they had a dangerous encounter with a rattlesnake. The 2 children, ages 4 and 8, were playing no less than 15 feet, 4.5 meters away from their father, who was cooking up a few steaks on the grill. In this case, it was actually the children who antagonized the snake. The issue here is that the kids were used to being around snakes. The family already owned a pair of pythons that the kids played with at home. Plus, earlier that day, the kids had discovered a garter snake and had some fun poking it with sticks. Well, when the rattlesnake came along, the kids had absolutely no fear of it. Just like with the garter snake, they picked up some sticks and started poking it. The rattlesnake wasn't quite as forgiving as the first one, and it lashed out and bit both children on their hands. They then ran to their father, complaining about the bites. Luckily, their father recognized the rattlesnake bites immediately and quickly put the kids in the car and sped to the hospital. Doctors had to administer anti-venom and keep the kids under observation. And although they suffered quite a bit of pain, the kids made full recoveries. Hopefully, they learned that when you see a snake in the wild, you probably shouldn't poke it with sticks. 1. Brutal frog attacks. Scientists have discovered one of the most gruesome snake encounters in the animal kingdom. While studying the mysterious kukri snakes in Thailand, scientists learned that they have an insatiable hunger for frog organs. The way they get to the organs is nothing short of disturbing. Scientists witnessed multiple kukri snakes shoving their heads inside frogs' mouths and then slurping out their organs while the frogs were still alive. This gory behavior has raised some serious questions, as scientists have never before seen snakes feasting on amphibians like this. Most snakes simply swallow their prey whole, leaving the experts stumped as to why these particular snakes choose to dive headfirst inside frog mouths to only eat the organs. Scientists say once the snake gets its head inside a frog, it then swallows the organs one by one during a process that takes several hours. And the whole time, the frog is just sitting there waiting for the nightmare to end, probably praying for death.
Number 10. The worst bathroom break in history. In one of the most disturbing medical case reports in recent memory, a man had his private parts rot off after an unfortunate encounter with a snake. According to a team of doctors in the Netherlands, the victim was a man who went to South Africa on vacation. He went to a nature reserve, hoping to see some animals and have an awesome time. Instead, he wound up at the hospital. It all happened when he tried to use the toilet. What he didn't realize is that in Africa, when you're out in the middle of a nature reserve, ramshackle toilets aren't the safest places. As he was doing his business, a snouted cobra appeared from inside the toilet and bit his privates. He never thought to open the toilet and check inside the bowl for deadly snakes first. It got him right on his skin. At first, things weren't so bad, but soon came the pain, followed by a horrible burning sensation. That burning radiated from his groin up into his abdomen, then finally into his chest. It was pretty obvious he needed immediate medical attention, but he had to wait 3 hours for a helicopter to get him out of the bush. Because he had to wait so long to get help, he was already in a world of trouble. His downstairs had become swollen and purple and affected by necrosis. His tissue was literally rotting away. In the end, he was left with one horribly mutated body part, the last one he probably would have preferred. Number 9. Using a snake as a weapon. In October 2021, a man in India was given 2 life sentences for the terrible murder of his wife. He didn't bludgeon her to death, he didn't stab her, and he didn't even hire a hitman. His weapon of choice for the murder was a highly venomous cobra. According to NBC News, this method of murder is actually becoming a national problem. The Indian Supreme Court believes venomous cobras have become part of a murderous trend in which people use their poison to make deaths look accidental. In this case, the murderer Kumar married his wife solely for financial gain, but he became dissatisfied with her company and decided to end things. He didn't want to get a divorce because then he wouldn't get all their money. But if he killed her in a traditional way, he also wouldn't get the money because he would be charged with murder. He needed to do something to make it look like an accident. Seeing as snake bites are fairly common in India, with an estimated 1 million deaths over the past 20 years, according to the World Health Organization, this seemed like the best option. Kumar went out and bought a poisonous cobra from a snake charmer. He basically walked down the market and bought the deadliest snake in the world, like you might buy an ice cream cone. He starved it for a week to make it aggressive, and then had it bite his wife. Kumar was caught because the police weren't stupid. When they checked the snake's stomach, they saw it was empty. This is very unlike cobras, who eat every day. Clearly, the snake had been starved in an attempt to make it hostile. Number 8. Hero dog versus venomous snake. In 2021, a man in Alabama was attacked by a copperhead snake and barely walked away with his life. His current status as still being alive is only thanks to his heroic dog, Ruger. While Zachary Peyton Ruger were taking a leisurely afternoon walk around a lake in Tuscaloosa, Ruger started pulling on Zachary's leg. Ruger, an 18-month-old cane corso, had never done anything like it before. He had never bitten Zachary, outside of playing. Suddenly, the dog seemed wildly aggressive. Ruger was wrapping himself around Zachary's leg, digging his claws into him and nipping at him. When Zachary scolded the dog, Ruger started running in circles. It all happened so fast that Zachary didn't get a clear view of what happened. But suddenly, there was something that looked like a stick in Ruger's mouth. But Ruger didn't play with sticks. And when Ruger stopped running in circles, Zachary realized he was holding a venomous copperhead snake between his teeth. Ruger had somehow gotten the upper hand on the snake and then bashed its head against a rock and let it go. Finally realizing what was happening, Zachary picked up a stick and bludgeoned the serpent to make sure it was dead. His dog must have seen the snake beforehand and tried to get Zachary's attention. But when Zachary didn't listen, Ruger protected his owner by taking the snake on himself. The bite may not have proved fatal, but Zachary at least would have had a trip to the hospital. What a good boy. Number 7. Battle with an anaconda. A man in a boat got in a fight with an anaconda, but it wasn't the anaconda's fault. The serpent didn't want to be in a fight in the first place. It was the fisherman who grabbed the 30-foot monster out of the water and started wrestling it, while others in the boat laughed and filmed. This was a bad situation, but it goes to show that everything we learned in 1997's hit movie Anaconda is complete nonsense. Yes, the anaconda is the largest snake in the world, growing up to 550 pounds. Yes, they live in the swamps and marshes of South America, but they don't actually hunt people, and they definitely don't drag people out of boats to eat them. Anacondas would no doubt love to have you for breakfast, but for one of them to actually attack is very rare. This incident happened recently, in January 2022 in Brazil. The 3 men involved ended up getting fined for harassing the snake on the Santa Maria River. Locals in the area are familiar with anacondas and know they aren't dangerous unless you get caught off guard, or if you happen to be a small child on the side of the river. If you look like an easy snack, you might get eaten. Number 6. A snake for Christmas. Rob and Marcella Wild were getting ready to celebrate Christmas. It may have been hot and dry in South Africa, but it was still the 2021 Christmas season. They set up a Christmas tree in their house, they started putting presents underneath it, and then something showed up that wasn't planned at all. When the couple came home one day, they noticed an unwelcome visitor had made itself comfortable in their Christmas tree. One of the most venomous snakes in the entire African continent was hiding underneath layers of tinsel. It was a female boomslang, about 5 feet long. These snakes are so venomous that just one bite almost always proves fatal. The only good thing about them is that they don't bite often. Unlike some deadly serpents, boomslangs are shy. They would rather run away than get in a fight, and that may be what saved Rob and Marcel's lives. They were able to get out of the house and call a local snake expert, who safely captured the boomslang and released it back into the wild. Hopefully next Christmas the couple won't come home to find some other deadly creature hiding in their tree. What would be worse to find under the Christmas tree than a venomous snake? Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe before the end of the video. Number 5. Looking for trouble. During the summer of 2021, Steven Johnson looked into his camera lens and said, "Let's get to it and see what we can find." Steven, an avid outdoorsman and amateur YouTube enthusiast, said this as he was entering Marshy Point Nature Center in Maryland. His plan was to show his YouTube followers just how big and deadly Maryland snakes can get. But you know what they say, when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Steven spent the day in the forest, and all he found were garter snakes. The day was winding down, and Steven was realizing there probably weren't going to be any vicious creatures he could film. Then, a copperhead snake slithered across the trail in front of him and bit his leg. It happened abruptly, with Steven Johnson barely able to react. According to what he said later in his video, it felt as though he had run into a thorn bush. He looked down and realized he had just about stepped on a copperhead, and in response, it sank its fangs into his calf. Steven got off extremely lucky. He suffered what is called a dry bite, meaning the snake bit him but didn't inject any venom. It was the first incident of a snake bite in Baltimore County parks in 20 years, according to the park manager. The only person to almost die from a snake bite was the same person that went out looking for one. Number 4. Dog to the rescue. In Australia late last year, a dog was bit by a venomous reptile. The pup, a 5-year-old Staffordshire Bull Terrier, is named Millie. She was in the backyard with her younger brother, a 5-month-old puppy from a new litter named Tonka. According to the dog's owner, a paramedic in Ipswich named Madeline, Millie only got bitten because she saved her younger brother's life. Millie got between herself and the younger puppy, preventing the younger dog from being bitten. Sadly for Millie, she took the full force of the attack. By the time her mother finally got her to the animal hospital, she was in dire condition. She had been bitten several times and was knocking on death's door. But Tonka, the little puppy who had no idea what was going on, had no injuries at all. The evil serpent in this case was a brown snake. It's one of the most bothersome snakes in Australia, whose venom is so potent it can cause organ failure and death. Veterinarians administered antivenom to Millie, then monitored her to ensure she didn't suffer organ failure while her body fought off the toxins. Number 3. Failed snake catcher. Being a snake catcher is not an easy job, especially not for Vava Suresh. Last January, he was trying to wrangle a cobra into an empty bag when the snake lashed out and bit him. It happened in India, in the district of Kerala. The snake catcher was nearly dead the same day. Vava is a local wildlife conservationist and snake expert, but you wouldn't think it by watching the horrifying video of him trying to force a snake into the bag. The cobra clearly didn't want to go. It was being difficult, and Vava knew it. You can see the sweat pouring down his face in the video. Honestly, it's pretty stressful to watch. The snake was getting more and more irritated. It was coiling itself up and getting very aggressive. It was pretty clear that something terrible was going to happen. And finally, after a long and uncomfortable struggle, the snake got Vava right above the knee. People in the video screamed. The man dropped the snake, and it slithered into the crowd, causing abrupt panic. Vava is extremely lucky to be alive. He had cardiac arrest on his way to the hospital and had to be put on a ventilator. It took 4 days for him to start breathing on his own and showing any sign of improvement, though he had to remain in the ICU a little longer. Even being immediately rushed to the hospital doesn't guarantee life when you're bitten by a cobra. As for the snake, it got away and hasn't been seen since. Number 2. Hiding in the bathroom. When a woman in Nigeria sat down to use the toilet, She was bitten by a giant snake. It happened in Abuja, with the victim being a member of the Nigerian Air Force. She's been identified as Lance Corporal Oga Bursi. When she sat down to do her business, she disturbed a snake that had turned the toilet bowl into its own personal nest. It bit her without hesitation, and she was dead before she could even make it to the hospital. Footage was captured of the snake being removed, though its species was never officially determined. Judging by the footage, it's either a Mali cobra, an Egyptian cobra, or a black-necked spitting cobra. The spitting cobra is the most dangerous in all of Nigeria, growing up to 7 feet in length. They don't even have to bite you to kill you. They can just spit their venom in your face and slither away. Number 1. The snake bite crisis. Simon Isolomo was a fisherman in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. At 5 o'clock in the morning, he said goodbye to his wife and his 7 kids and got into his dugout canoe. As he was checking his fishing lines later that day, he felt resistance on one of them. It was snagged on something, so he put his hand into the water. That was when something bit him. There was sudden pain. He saw blood oozing from a pair of puncture wounds, and in the water was a yellow snake with black rings slithering away. It was a banded water cobra. Simon didn't know it yet, but he was already dead. According to National Geographic, it took about 3 hours for the fisherman to die. His companions, fellow fishermen, paddled him in their canoe back to their village, but it was a long trip. As they were paddling, Simon's eyes changed color. He started vomiting, and he slipped in and out of consciousness. When they pulled up to the dock back at their village, Simon was dead. Now get ready for some boggling statistics. The story of Simon is not unique. According to the World Health Organization, 138,000 people every year die just from snake bites. 95% of the deaths occur in developing nations like the DRC. 400,000 people are bitten by snakes and survive, yet are left with permanent disabilities